In this video, I'm going to show you how to get your Raspberry Pi to automatically email you your external IP address. If you're running a server, this is something that you're going to want to do if you don't have a dedicated static IP address. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up idle on your Raspberry Pi. While that's loading, I'm using idle 3 here because I'm programming in Python 3. While that's loading up, what you're going to want to do is create an email address, and I've done an email address here with Gmail, and if you want to follow along exactly what I'm doing, I suggest you use Gmail as well. My email address is called zanspiserver@gmail.com. This is the account that I will email my IP address to and check if I want to see what the address is of my PlayPi, which is the Raspberry Pi that we will be working on. After idle 3 has loaded up, go to File, New Window. In your terminal, you're going to want to create a new directory, and this will be the directory that will contain our code for our IP email. So I'm going to create a directory called IP email, and inside of this directory, I am going to write a file called lastip.txt. And in it, I'm just going to add a single value, a 1. And now if we check what's in there, it just says lastip.txt. Excellent. Going back to our Raspberry Pi, we have opened up a window here to start writing a script, and it is in this script that we are going to contain the contents of our Python program. So let's get started. If we're going to want to be able to send ourselves an email, we're going to have to set up our login credentials. So we need to make sure that we know where we are sending our email from, and I'm going to use zanspiserver@gmail.com. We need to know where we're sending our address to, our email to. So again, I'm going to use zanspiserver@gmail.com. We want a subject line for our email, and I'm going to say PlayPi IP. We are going to have to give it our username so that we can actually log into our Gmail account, and my username is zanspiserver. Please don't use these credentials yourself. The password for this email address in this case is one feathered peanut, the same as my Raspberry Pi, to keep things simple. Now, where are we going to get our IP address from? Well, normally, I've shown you in the past, you just type in what is my IP, and Google will give you your external public IP address. There are also many websites that will do the same, and one website in particular that I like and will use for this experiment is checkip.dindns.org. If I go there, it's very simple. It just gives me a text output of current IP address is blah. Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell our script to visit this website, read the contents of this page, and sort out what is our IP address and extract that into a format that we can use. So to be able to log in to visit a website, we're going to have to import a package called, or import a library called urllib. In particular, from urllib.request, we are going to import URL open. Now, as you can guess, that is the line that we need to open up a URL. We're going to set up where we will get our IP address, and I'm going to choose that URL that I mentioned earlier of http://checkip.dindns.org. If you want to use another service, or if you want to use more than one, such as whatsmyip.net, that will also work. And just to make sure everything is working here, let's print our chosen IP address service is, and we will pass it our URL. All right, great. So I'm just going to save this for now in case something were to happen. I'm going to save it in that folder I created called IP email, and I'm going to call it IP email, and it will automatically save as a Python file. So if I save that, I can now move on. And what we're going to do is we're going to visit this URL, and we are going to extract that public IP address that we saw earlier on the website. So we're going to open up the URL, then read the contents, and take away the IP address. And the way we do that is first we're going to create a request. And our request is going to open up our URL, and it's going to read it, and then it's going to decode it. That is, convert, or decode, I should say, decode the website into a format that we can easily convert into a string. And the format of that website is UTF-8. And then we extract the IP address only. And I'm going to create a value here called our IP, and we are going to have to import a new library to be able to extract the IP address, and that library is RE. So if we're importing RE, we can use that, and we can use a particular function called findAll, and what we're going to be looking for is a decimal. And our decimal, because IP addresses always follow the same pattern of 1 to 3 digits, followed by a period by 1 to 3 digits, period 1 to 3 digits, period 1 to 3 digits, what we're going to look for is 1 to 3 digits. And then we're going to look for a period, and then we're going to look for 1 to 3 digits, period, and 1 to 3 digits. And then finally, let's get our last period and 1 to 3 digits. It's going to find this from our request that we initialized earlier, and then we are going to convert our IP to a string. This will make it easier for transmitting in our email and printing it, which we can do right now just to make sure that everything is working here. So our IP address is, and then we will pass it our IP. If I save this and then go to run it, what we should do is we should see what our service is and then what our IP address is. There we go. Excellent. So we know what our service is and what our IP address is, and we know this here is what our external IP address is. So now we have saved that in a value called our IP, and we can send that via email off to ourselves so that we can access our Pi from anywhere we want, that we can access Google or our email service from. Now that we have our IP address, the next thing we're going to want to do is email it to ourselves. And the way we're going to go about doing that is defining a function. And the reason why we're going to do this now is because you will see later, we're going to create a function called sendEmail, and we're going to pass it our IP. In this function, let's create our body. So body of the email. We're going to want some text in the body of the text. That's the message itself, and we'll say our body text is equal to our IP plus is our PlayPi IP address. PlayPi is the name of my Raspberry Pi. When you send an email, it's nice to populate the to field, from field, subject field, and all that. So what we're going to do is our overall message here is going to be a combination of broken up lines that are joined together with joining together a list, and that list is going to be our to field, and the value we're going to pass our to field is our address, our to address rather. We set this up earlier. We're going to have a from field that we need to populate with our, you can probably guess it, from address. We're going to have to give it our subject, which, as you can probably guess, is the subject that we initialized earlier. Let's give it a little bit of space, and then we're going to include our body text, which we set up just a moment ago. Excellent. So now our IP address, our IP email knows where to send it, from where it is sent, what the subject line is, and what the actual contents are, which is our IP plus our PlayPy IP address. Now that that's done, we're going to actually want to send the email. And the way you go about doing that is to send an email in Python, we're going to have to import a new library. And this library is called smtp lib. Oops. And the first thing we're going to want to do with it is set up our email server using our smtp lib. And because we are using Gmail, we're going to put in the values necessary for Gmail. If you're using Hotmail or Yahoo, you're going to have to put in different values, and that's why I suggest that you use Gmail just for following along in this example. To log in, we have to pass it our credentials, our username and password, but we want to encrypt those, because if we don't, people can just kind of, steal our credentials, and then we have a problem. So we're going to start our security layer, our security for transmission of credentials, and then we are going to log in. And we're going to log in using our username, which we set up earlier, and our password. After we have logged in, we're going to actually send our email. It's going to be from our from address. It is going to be going to our to address, and the contents of our message are going to be message, which we set up earlier. After we're done that, we've sent the email, let's exit, and then just proof of concept, let's print our email has been sent. All right. Now, we're going to go through this script just for testing. And we've defined this. Let's actually execute our function here, send email, passing it our IP. So now what we should see is that we have chosen a certain service, what our IP address is, and then we should be sending ourselves our IP. If I execute this script, what do we see? We see that we have checked our site, we have an IP address, and that our email has been sent. Now, if we go back to our email, sure enough, here's our email. Wonderful. It contains our IP address and tells us that this is our PlayPy IP address. If you want to snip off, truncate it so that you only get the IP address, you can do that, but that is not something I'm going to cover in this video. So, proof of concept, it is working now, and that's great. Now, you might go, all right, well, eventually we're going to automate this so that it periodically checks our IP address and emails it to us. Now, let's say we're checking every hour. We don't want to be receiving 24 emails an hour, otherwise your cell phone, which just went off because of that email, is going to drive you insane. So what we can do is we can historically archive this IP address, and we can check our current IP address, the one that we just checked, against our historic one, and see if there is a difference. If there is, that suggests that our IP address has changed. If not, then we don't need to send ourselves an email and waste our time. So that's what we're going to do now. So let's delete this line here, send email, our IP, and instead what we're going to do is we're going to open up last ip.txt. That was that file that I asked you to create in terminal over here. So here in our IP email folder, we have our IP email.py and we have last IP.txt, and that contains a 1. So we're going to open up last IP.txt and we are going to extract the contents. Extract the contents. The way that we open it up is with open, we are going to go to that folder. And that folder, let's specify the entire directory of that folder. So home pi, because I chose IP email, and it is called last IP.txt. We're going to open that up and we are going to read the text. That's what the RT stands for. And the contents that we pull are going to be called last IP. Inside of here, what we're going to do is we're going to say last IP is equal to last IP, which is what we're passing into it, dot read. So read the text file. Alright, so we've read the text file and we've saved the contents of it to a value called last IP, and this is the last checked IP. Well, now we need to compare. So we're going to check to see if our IP address has really changed. And what we're going to do is we're going to say if our last IP, which is going to be a string because we are importing text from our text file, is equal to our IP, which is also a string, we converted it earlier, we're going to print us a message saying our IP addresses have not changed. And they wouldn't have. If they are the same, then that means since last time they have not changed. But they might change, and if they do change, else we're going to print our we have a new IP address because they're different now, and we are going to do something about it. So we're going to send ourselves the email, but before we do that, let's write over that last IP.txt file with our new contents. So with open, this is very similar to before, we're going to specify the path of our file. So home pi IP email last IP.txt. This time, instead of reading it, we're going to write text. That's what the WT is for. And we're going to pass in the same value, last IP, just for consistency. And we're going to say last IP. We're now going to write to it. And we're going to write our IP, which is our current IP that we have been checking for. After that is done, let's just get a confirmation that we have written the new IP address to the text file. And so now we've written it, and now we are going to send our email passing in our IP. So let's save that and let's give it a run. Now remember, last IP.txt contains only a 1. So there we have it. So we have our IP service, our IP address. It verifies that we have a new IP address as compared to our last IP.txt file. We have written the IP address to the text file, and then we sent ourselves the email. Let's check that text file. So using nano, I'm going to open up last IP.txt, and sure enough, it is now no longer a 1, it is now our IP address. Exiting out of here, let's go check our email. And sure enough, of course, we have our new email here containing our IP address. Great. Now let's run it again, just to make sure that it's not going to send us an email again. So running it again now. We see that our IP address has not changed, and it shouldn't have updated the file. I'm going to assume it didn't, and it shouldn't have updated our email with that content, and it hasn't. We don't have a new email here. So we have verified it works. One last time, let's just change it up a bit. So now that's definitely not our IP address. If we execute our program again, we say that it has written the new IP address. We check. Sure enough, it has overwritten what we just wrote, and we should have a new email. Perfect. All right, so this is great. We've demonstrated that this script is working, and it is working how we want it to. Now let's automate it. We're not going to be here to execute this script every time we want to connect to it from a distant network. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get the Raspberry Pi to automatically execute this script periodically. And you're going to want to do that in your terminal. You're going to want to type in crontab-e, and crontab is kind of like the scheduler used by the Raspberry Pi. If we open this up, what we see here at the very bottom is that we can specify our minute, our hour, day of month, month of year, day of week, and the command that we want to have executed whenever we want. So in this case, you might want to say ping your IP address every hour. In this demonstration, I'm going to say every 2 minutes, because I'm filming here. We're going to do our command every hour, every day of the month, every month of the year, every day of the week, and the command that we're going to want to do, you're going to want to specify it's usr/bin/python3, because that's how you execute the command, is with Python 3. And what we are executing is our IP email dot py. So once you have this set up, you're going to want to save it. You're going to want to save it as the same file. Now you're going to want to reboot your Raspberry Pi. Alright, now that our Raspberry Pi has rebooted, we have instructed it so that every second minute past the hour, so every minute 2, 4, 6, 8, 0, we are going to execute our Python script. It is currently 15:59 according to our Raspberry Pi. And now it just flipped to 16 o'clock, and you can see in our activity monitor down here in the bottom right that there was a spike, that there was something that happened. Now, what was that something that happened? Well, our IP address has not changed since rebooting the Raspberry Pi. And if we go to our last IP, we see that it still contains our IP address. So I'm going to just change that. And this will mean that when it does the comparison, it's different. I'm going to exit out of that. And then we're going to wait for another 2 minutes. Just to verify that it does work, I'm going to clear my inbox here so that we have no emails before 16:02 comes around. It is now 16:02. We just had something happen on our Raspberry Pi. I heard my phone go off, which is a good sign. That probably means I just got the email. If we check our last IP, we see that yes, indeed, our IP address file has been updated with our current IP address. And then if we go back here, lo and behold, here is our IP address on our server. So there you have it. Upon reboot, the Raspberry Pi is automatically emailing us every 2 minutes through crontab our IP address. I hope this helped you guys get your Raspberry Pi completely set up as a server. You can now have it hosted on the web safely, and you can connect to it as long as you can connect to your Gmail account. I hope you enjoyed it, and have yourself a good one.